Hey guys, before we get into this episode of the show, I do want to let you know about a course that I've launched on Skillshare called Productivity Masterclass, Create a Custom System That Works. And if you haven't been able to take the course yet and you want to improve your productivity system in 2019, then I'm going to suggest that you go over to cigpodcast.com/productivity. That'll take you to the sales page for the Skillshare course. And if you go to that URL, you're going to get a 2-month free trial of Skillshare, which means that you can indeed take this course for free. So if you want to tighten your note-taking system, your to-do list, your email processing, your calendar, all those great things, then go ahead and take that course. Once again, it's cigpodcast.com/productivity, and let's get into the show. Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to the College Info Geek podcast. I don't have a joke this week.
What?
That's the
It's
joke.
not a good place to hear a joke in the intro.
Insert laugh track here. This is going to be a different episode. So one of my favorite podcasts in the world, Money Lab, which, I mean, it's possibly my favorite podcast because it's run by one of my good friends, Matt Giovanisi, and also Andrew Fiebert's on it. He's also one of my very good friends. It's just like hanging out with my friends, right?
That's fair.
Last year when they were doing like their 30 days, 30 podcast episodes thing, they had one episode where it was just like, they called it a fly on the wall episode, where they were just having a conversation about their own kind of stuff, but it was still relevant to business.
Okay, so they weren't necessarily trying to like point it and like
it was a
as
Skype
advice
conversation
toward you,
turned
the
into
listener.
a podcast, and people really liked it. I loved it.
Okay,
like because it wasn't them trying to present; it was just them being themselves, talking about things that they cared about specifically in the moment, and then they just made it a podcast episode. So I'm gonna do that because for the past 4 days, I have been I tried to sit down and write a video called Top 10 Note-Taking Apps for 2019, thinking it would be easy.
Oh, Thomas.
I was like, all I gotta do is make a list of apps, just write like a sentence or two about their features. It could be arbitrary, no one would care, and I put it out there. But no, that's not how my brain works. My brain's like, well, what's the best note-taking app? And I found myself frustrated because I cannot find a note-taking app that I'm happy with. And I feel like a lot of people are in this similar situation. I've been like trawling through GitHub bug threads for open source Markdown editor projects. And there's people who are just like, yeah, I came from Evernote, and Evernote has like 1 or 2 missing features, and for that it's a deal breaker.
Everything's like a partial solution to what you're looking for.
And I feel like a lot of people have come to the same exact conclusion that I have, where it's like full circle. I want to leave Evernote. I find myself back at Evernote because nothing else quite fits the bill.
Evernote, you'll be back.
That's the slogan.
That's the slogan. That's a good one.
Yeah. And I don't feel bad about this because I was watching a car review a few months ago, back when I was trying to buy a new car and I was researching. And I think it was the Straight Pipes. They did a video on the Volkswagen GTI. And they were reviewing like the newest model, and Volkswagen had fixed something that they wanted, and they were like, "This is why you never stop complaining," because eventually, I don't know. I feel like if you're a fan of a company but you also complain, they listen to you because like you're giving them your dollars.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of complaining on Twitter to note-taking apps, but that I also use, and if not pay for, at least advertise a lot.
Yeah, so it's like
I don't feel bad.
It's like a complaint coming from a good place.
Yes.
Rather than just complaining to be mean.
Yeah.
You want them to help you better.
So what I'm going to do in this episode is I'm going to tell people the note-taking apps I've been testing that will, there's some value there.
Yeah.
But I got to thinking, like, what if we could design our own? And I thought about this morning, and I was like, that's too much work. That's a lot of work. Because to do it correctly, you need multi-device compatibility, mobile and desktop. You need a syncing engine, and you need like fast performance. You need some way to make sure notes are backed up, version history. What do you do with encryption? There's all kinds of things. But on last week's episode, you talked about how you just like started fiddling around with Unity.
Yep.
And obviously, game development is like a similarly huge problem. Like developing a game is a massive
There's quite a lot,
right? But people do it, and indie developers do it. Singular indie developers make games sometimes. Like the dude who made Stardew Valley, that's just him. And I mean, you can think through the systems that run that game, and they're similarly complex and ridiculous. So like, this is not an impossible task. It's just like when you got a lot of other things going on, you can tell yourself, oh, this is really difficult and too much to do. But is it?
No, well, how many ideas are lost to the world because of that exact impression, because you're busy
Yeah.
doing other stuff and you're like, I got the greatest idea ever. Let me just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Never mind, I guess.
So you had told me that you have some ways that you use note-taking apps. I want to hear about those. I want to kind of go through some of the notes that or the note-taking apps that I tested. Talk about some of the things I liked, some of what I didn't like, and I want to kind of like maybe come up with an idea for what I would consider the ideal note-taking app.
Okay.
And I do not care that this is on the air, because unlike, say, like a new innovative business idea that like you don't want people stealing, like, no, please, like, even if I start making this, even if I hire people, like, please steal my ideas. I've been prattling on about them on Twitter for weeks anyway. Like, I don't even know how many times I've tweeted at Evernote being like, please give me nested notebooks. Let me create a nested file structure, please, like, and other apps. And here's the thing. I don't think there's a single feature I would build into an app that doesn't exist somewhere else. Like, all the apps that I tested out, it was like, oh, well, this one has this, and this one has this. And if they only would just merge together, please, it would be perfect. But they haven't. Or there are apps that are nearly perfect, but they're not available on Windows, or not available on Mac, or they're not available on mobile.
Yeah, or they're buggy, or
they're buggy. Yeah, so I need something that's like rock solid, available on the platforms I use, and ideally available on every platform, because why be selfish?
Yeah.
And that actually has the features. So to start this out, I've been on Evernote for a decade.
Don't say words like that to me.
Oh,
It's been a while. It's been quite a while.
If I go back to my first note on Evernote, it's something for the Cyclone A job. Yeah, do I have Evernote open?
I'm very interested.
Actually, I think it's easier to do it in their mobile app, because you can go to All Notes and then there's like this nice little scroll thing, which is a feature that I would want to put in my app. But yeah, I can go back to July 2010.
I remember this
note.
note.
Do I have more?
Oh, it's about classful addressing for when you're doing subnets and stuff. Oh, that first note. Anyway, that was from September 13th, 2010.
Oh my God. You want to know what my first note is?
Qua.
July 2nd, 2010. Blog idea.
Oh, you beat me by a few months, and it's a blog idea.
It's the idea for College Info Geek. My first note in Evernote is the
somewhat
first
poetic.
Like dash note of what this. Yeah.
Hey, that note worked out.
Blog about college tips in general. Dash helpful apps, tips, tricks, suggestions of stuff to do. Call it College Beat. That's what I was going to call it.
Hey, note to 2010, Tom. Hey, that was a pretty decent idea.
That was a pretty
solid note.
It worked out pretty well. Okay, so
see, look what note apps can do for you.
8.5 years ago, not a decade, but
Yeah.
I've been using Evernote for a really long time. And to be clear, I like Evernote. It just has a couple of things it doesn't do that really frustrate me. And the main thing, and the thing people have been clamoring for since 2008 probably, and off and on, and Evernote just does not care, is the fact that you cannot nest your notebooks. You can nest your tags. And Michael Hyatt has a very detailed blog post where he shows how he has created like this ridiculous tag-based hierarchical organization of notes in Evernote, where to get around the duplicate tagging issue and to create a hierarchical thing, he's put like dots in front of certain tags and like tildes in front of other tags and the little up arrow symbol in front of other tags, and created like a thing around that. And it's interesting.
I can see how that makes sense, but my initial reaction is, I hate little complications.
Tags are not folders. Tags are labels. I mean, you can create a taxonomy with your labels, but they are not an actual label or folder structure. And the problem, multiple problems. One problem is it's very easy to create tag permutations that are similar but slightly different to what you have decided your organizational structure is going to be. So if I have a videos tag, I might accidentally tag something as video. And And if there's case sensitivity in tags, which I don't know if there is, but if there is, like that you could have like 4 different permutations based on singularity or pluralness and then like capitalization. And it's very tough to remain disciplined with a tag structure and keep it organized. The main bigger problem is in Evernote's mobile app. Number one, tags, you got to go to your user settings, you got to go to settings, and you got to go to manage tags. And then, as you can see here, tags are organized alphabetically on the mobile app. So
they're not showing like their hierarchy.
If you created a hierarchy, which I've done, because see these 136, 138, these tags exist underneath a videos tag in Evernote's desktop app, but on the mobile app they're just listed alphabetically. So that's totally broken. Evernote's web app, you know how you can do notebook stacks?
Yeah.
Evernote's web app doesn't support those.
Wait, really?
So if you go to the web app, it just lists all of your notebooks alphabetically, no stacks. So they don't seem to care about creating a hierarchical organization for your data. And that doesn't make sense to me because Evernote's trying to be like your second brain.
Yeah.
Like that's and I mean, they've done all this work to help you capture everything. And I really commend it because very few other programs out there will do optical character recognition, will do inline PDF viewing, at least in the desktop apps, will let you attach audio files and anything to your notes. It's really powerful, right? Tags. It's really powerful, but yeah, just the way that you like it, you run up against some limitations in the way that you organize your data, and it makes it really, really annoying. But Evernote gets most things right. It's just like that, to me, is a fundamental oversight. And I don't know what it is. Maybe they built something into their code architecture a decade ago, and it just does not make any sense. I don't see how, because I feel like you could just build into your client, like you could say, like in your views, allow user to, move notebooks under each other, and even if they weren't actually moved under each other to server level, it would at least look like that visually. I don't know, but that doesn't exist. So there's Evernote. So that made me go look at a bunch of other notes. I looked at a bunch that are not in my top 10. Trillium, Notable, InkDrop, Boost Note, Droplin, Keep It, Devon Think, Box Notes, NoteJoy, Simple Note, Zoho Notes, Agenda, which I want to come back to Agenda because I think you would like Agenda. I don't like Agenda. But the top 10 that it came to, I guess Evernote is one of them. Microsoft OneNote is one. There's one called Standard Notes, Google Keep, Bear, Ulysses, Apple Notes, Notion, which we use every single day, Slite, and then one called Typora. So these will be in the show notes. I will probably still make a video about these, and I think like some people will probably find one and just be happy with it, but I'm happy with none.
Yeah.
Typora has the best writing experience that I have come across in a note-taking app. So I guess like one thing I wanted to find here, for me, a note-taking app has like a UI where you get your file browser of notes on like the side and then the editor in the same window. So I don't count Google Docs, I don't count Microsoft Word, I don't count Dropbox Paper, because those I consider like, I don't count Byword. Those are writing apps, and you have to go and use a separate file system to access your writings.
Yeah.
And I don't think that works really well for note-taking apps, because you want to be able to zoom around quickly between notes, and you want to be able to see your organization, right? It's just like an email program. Like if I had to look at emails in a file browser and then open them in a new window, that'd be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's just how my brain works. So unfortunately, that disqualifies Dropbox Paper. And I say unfortunately because I think Dropbox Paper has possibly the best writing experience that I have ever found in an app. It's just that their file system's not so great. And it's separate, so it doesn't count. Typora is number 2. Typora's got a Markdown writing system, and for people who don't know, Markdown is a kind of a markup language where you can format your text with text.
Yeah, it's like a shorthand for style.
Yeah. So like most note-taking apps have cribbed some things from Markdown. Like if you type a star and then space, that will turn into a bullet list. Or if you type a 1 and then a space, that turns into an ordered list. If you put an asterisk around a string of text, that will italicize it. If you put 2, it will bold it. GitHub has their own flavor of Markdown, and a lot of apps will use GitHub flavor of Markdown. Now, there's a lot of note-taking apps out there that do a lot of things right, but what they do is they give you a plain text pane for editing your text, and then you can turn on a preview window where it will show you your Markdown formatting, but then you can't actually like go edit things in there. So it's like a separation between the editing window and the formatted text window. I don't like that. I want to be editing. I want to like have my stuff formatted as I'm editing it. So I also disqualified things like ink drop and notable, which have that split pane window. Doesn't work for me. I want something that like actually formats my stuff as I type with Markdown. Dropbox Paper does that. Typora does that. A lot of the apps that I have here do that. The problem with Typora, it's like a brilliant writing app, and it does have a file browser, but the sorting capabilities aren't great, and it doesn't do any like internal storage or management of your notes. It just opens up an actual file on your computer.
So it's like a good text editor.
Great text editor. Yep. And I do include it as a note-taking app because it at least has a file browser. And what's cool is once you've opened a folder, you can sort it. I'll actually show my computer here. You can sort it with your folders hierarchically, which is great. Or you can change to a articles list where it will just give you
that's interesting.
A list of every single note within the group of folders you've opened.
So it's like opening a folder in, like, for me, opening it in Atom or Sublime Text.
It's just like that, yep. And the reason I do count it as a note-taking app is because in the preferences, you can tell it to always open that folder. Like when you open up the app,
then essentially it would be its database.
And you can tell it to keep the last app or the last note you had open. You can tell it to open to that. So you can turn it into almost an Evernote competitor, because you can get the Windows version, you can get the Mac version, you can keep them on all your computers, and then you can tell it to use a folder structure that's in Google Drive or Dropbox, so you have cloud syncing. But, and I haven't run into this problem because I've been careful about it, but I've realized if you have a note open on multiple desktops, I don't think the autosave function is smart enough to like know what the most recent change was. And there's no built-in version history. So if I went and wrote a bunch of text on one computer, forgot to hit the save button, and then I went over to another computer and accidentally hit save, or I closed out and like triggered the autosave function, it may overwrite the new stuff on the other computer. So it just doesn't exist in the way that Evernote or most note-taking apps have that sort of organizational hierarchy there. But the writing experience, I think, is second to none. OneNote, Microsoft OneNote is a frustrating case because it's very powerful, but there's no way to sort your notes by date, modified, date created, alphabetical. It's just, they literally like give you a skeuomorphic digital notebook where like the next page is just the next page. And it's like you flip through it like it's real paper. Some people love that, but I'm like, no, I need to be able to sort. And I guess like my dream note-taking app would let you sort in any folder. Like you would be able to define a different sort order for each folder, which you can do in Ulysses. And I would want date modified, date created, alphabetical, or manual. Because manual lets you drag and drop. So if you were like writing a book or a really long article, you could have multiple little snippets, and then you could drag them in the order you wanted them, which would be sweet. The other thing I like about Typora, though, is, I think on the Mac, the Mac it's over here, you get an outline view based on your subheadings. So you can zoom between things in your document. Oh, that's something that Google Drive has done for a long time, and ever since I found it, I loved it. It was amazing. But yeah, OneNote doesn't give you the ability to sort your notes, which is just crazy making to me.
Well, it's OneNote.
OneNote, it's just all.
It's right in there. It's right in the name.
Yeah. Standard notes. Standard is an interesting one. I think I have it on here that I can like open it up and show it to you. Yeah. So standard notes made by one dude. Has a big privacy focus. I really want to love standard notes because it's fast. They let you do, like, there's multiple editors. So like this note, I'm using a rich text editor, which Evernote uses. This note, I'm doing Markdown. And it has Markdown, like rich Markdown, where it will actually show you your formatting in the editor. You can still open a preview window, and there's certain things that will show better than others, such as this little quirk where ordered lists in the rich text editor here, or the rich Markdown editor, like if you tab in, the numbering doesn't restart like it should. So I could do like list item 1, list item 2, and then I would indent to another list level. It should go to 1,
Yeah.
but it goes to 3. When you preview, it does go to 1. It does render correctly.
Oh, that's
but
interesting.
I don't know why it doesn't render correctly over here. And they do let you do as many nested tags as you want, and then things like, at least unlike Evernote, it kind of like has some hierarchy to it, but you can't drag notes into different tags. You have to actually go in here and like change your tags to move notes from place to place. And the other thing I don't like is you can't drag images into the area to make notes. You got to host them online somewhere and then put the URL in there.
Which is a little cumbersome. When
So if you're, I don't know, an engineering student and you find, you've got some diagrams saved to your computer, or you're like me, you're writing blog posts and you want to like format a well-formatted blog post, it would be nice to be able to drag an image in. And Evernote lets you do that. OneNote lets you do that. Typora lets you do that. This doesn't. So it's kind of a bummer. And the other thing that I don't like is you cannot open 2 notes at once.
At all?
Nope. Just can't do it. There's no way to do it. I went into their Slack and I asked that there's currently not a way to do that. And I do want to put this up front because like we have a big platform. So like there's the potential that we're going to like shape public opinion about certain apps out there. Every app I talk about here, like we're at a snapshot in time. So anything that is being actively developed may improve, may change. And I would love for that to happen. But right now, like you can't do that. So big problem for me because when I'm writing an article, I often have a research document and then I want to open that up, put it next to my draft document and be able to reference it. Evernote can do that. Though Evernote has a weird thing where like sometimes I'm just stream of consciousness writing a bunch of stuff in one huge note and I want to open the same note in another window so I can reference stuff I wrote earlier.
Oh, because it's
that
big.
works. But when you make a change to the note in the other window, it will zoom down to where you make the change. So it's like you can't really reference the stuff you're using. Whereas in Typora, if you open the same note twice, it will intelligently update the text in the version of the note that you're not currently in, like the window you're not currently in, but it won't zoom down
scroll.
To it. So it's brilliant. So that would be on my wish list there. What else do we got? I have this in Typora. Let's see here. Google Keep. Google Keep is, I mean, I'm putting it on the list because it's good for like taking notes, but I feel like it's good for taking notes in the way you like to take notes, where it's like, oh, this is relevant to me now, but then later it'll be not useful, so I'll never need it again. For whatever reason, my brain loves the way Evernote works, where I'm like, if I write it down, it's always there, and it's just in my sort of mental trapper keeper where nothing will ever go away. But I think you were telling me you like having a system where there's stuff that like if you want to delete it, or like when you're done with it, you delete it.
Yeah, I like feeling free to delete some things. 'Cause I felt like for me with Evernote, I archived everything. I considered everything something to keep forever, and for me that's really overwhelming. Some things, yes, I want to keep forever, but there are some times where I want to do the equivalent of when I pull out one of my little pocket notebooks, write something, and I don't keep all of those. Because then I'd have a stack of 1,000 notebooks filled with unnecessary things. So I like it when things can go away, because otherwise I'll be juggling the information forever.
Because I typically use the inbox of Evernote for that, but I definitely get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I like that it's completely gone. I like data cleanliness sometimes, but only with certain things, because if I'm like, I clip recipes into Evernote. I have a ton of recipes. I have old things, important stuff, like maybe some leases that I've signed, old stuff that I want in there that's searchable. But if I just had a spur-of-the-moment thought, I'm just typing one thing, and I'm going to look at it later, and then that was it. It was just like a reminder about some ideas. I don't want that in the same place as my highly organized filing cabinet. You know, I want that to go away.
I guess like so Evernote has a trash where you can just trash things that you're done with.
I became afraid to throw things away because I have such a good potential to keep it forever, and because it's got version history. And then I'd be like, well, then I can keep every version of this forever. And what if I delete this now? I lose the versions, so I better keep everything. So right now I put a lot of stuff in iCloud Notes. So I was planning out maybe some new workout plans and some new habit things, some new goals I wanted to take on. And it was just a spur of the moment. I need to think out loud onto this because I didn't have my paper with me, my paper notebook. But I want that gone afterward. It's a huge mess. It's not useful to me going forward. It's useful to me in the moment.
Yeah. I wonder if you could build some sort of like ephemeral view.
That would be cool if there was like these are auto archived if you don't touch them for a week or something, and then I could just say, look, it's a notebook that goes away.
That would just be an interesting.
And then you have it forever, but it's not in front of my face, distracting me.
So I'm trying to think of this like from the perspective of like a mobile app, because I realize if I'm going to the desktop app, I could just like mark this note as like auto archive, or I could mark a folder or a smart search as like auto archive, anything with this tag. But what like one of my qualms with Evernote is sometimes I just want to like dash off a quick thought on my phone, and with Evernote I got to open the app, hit new note, categorize it, or just like I got to leave it in inbox and then hope I remember to categorize it later, which I almost never do. So sometimes I do open Apple Notes just to write a quick thought.
Yeah.
But it's not in the system then. So yeah, I wonder if you could make an app where you could just say like, all right, mobile app, like there's just a toggle. It says like, all right, toggle this to my ephemeral notebook.
Yeah, it's just managing the difference for me between what is active information, I'm using it now, but it's not important later, like an idea for something I want to cook, or here's me brainstorming grocery ideas without putting them in the official list. That's way different than me keeping my lease in a file forever with some notes about things that happened around that time. Yeah. And I don't want to see them together. That's two completely different mindsets, and I don't want to look at long term while I'm thinking about short term, and vice versa.
That is one, because like in my inbox I've got like 2018 like tax to dos, and I have like my Ninja Warrior application answers, and then like a Comcast ticket number.
Yeah, and I need to remember
it, but
that's like those are archived. You push them away.
Yeah.
And you need them when you need them, but you don't need to be shown those things again. Like when are you going to be like, oh yeah, the specific number for my Comcast data issue. Mm-hmm. Well, I know they haven't progressed on that. What a useful number to be seeing when something else could be showing up instead.
Yeah, exactly. So that's actually really interesting. This week's episode of our show is brought to you by our friends over at Brilliant, who have built an amazing learning platform for anyone wanting to increase their skills in math, science, and computer science while also becoming a better problem solver along the way. And that's because they build all of their courses with the principle of active learning in mind, which means instead of sitting in a lecture or passively intaking information, you are going to be immediately thrown into challenging problems that will stretch your capabilities and that will sometimes stump you. Now, the problems in their courses, which can range from calculus to math for quantitative trading and finance to logic to science courses like gravitational physics and even computer science courses like algorithms and computer memory, these problems are bite-sized, so they're not going to frustrate you too much, but you eventually will get stuck, and that's okay. They do have this amazingly detailed wiki with lots of example problems, lots of concepts with very detailed explanations, so you can go gather the knowledge that you need to get on a just-in-time basis and then go back to the course to solve those problems that you are stuck on. And when you do this, number one, you stay more interested as you're learning because you're doing it actively, but you also become a better problem solver across the board. So in your future career, when your boss brings you a new problem, you're going to be more equipped to solve it. Now, in addition to their library of in-depth courses, Brilliant has launched a new feature called Daily Problems, where they release a couple of problems each day that take about 5 minutes and can help you branch out and learn new things in areas that you hadn't considered before. So this could be a great addition to your morning routine or any part of your day. So if you want to start learning for free, if you want to start doing those daily problems or digging into one of their in-depth courses, you can go over to brilliant.org/collegeinfogeek. And if you are one of the first 83 people to do so and sign up, you're going to get 20% off their annual premium subscription. Big thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring this episode and being a huge supporter of College Info Geek, and let's get back into the show. Okay, so tell me about like how you take notes. So you have Apple Notes.
I have some paper notebooks. I have the iCloud notes.
Okay.
And then I have Evernote, which is where tons of old stuff is archived.
Do you like actively enter anything into Evernote right now?
I clip new recipes into Evernote using the clipping extension. A lot of what I have in Evernote right now is either old classwork I never bothered to delete, but also music work. So lyrics, the various stages of recordings, and ideas for music. That's actually one of the first things I loved Evernote for, was to keep track of recordings and lyrics and images of my fingers on the keys or on the guitar or something to remind me where the starting position was.
That's interesting.
And because sometimes it's hard for me to be like, wait, how did I finger that? I can't remember it.
Yeah.
But that stuff I don't need on a daily basis, whereas my iCloud notes, so that's got So my accomplishment log, because I'm entering stuff into that all the time. I don't want it. It's not in my filing cabinet. I want that on my desk to remind me what accomplishments I'm working on, what I've recently done. That may be sort of an archival thing, but I want to see it a lot.
So you keep that in iCloud Notes?
I keep that in iCloud Notes because I want to see it frequently. I don't want to have to sort through. Evernote to me is you go to the back room.
Yeah.
Filled with filing cabinets, and you only want to do that occasionally. That's stuff you didn't need, but this goes right on my desk because I want it constantly. Or like notes so I have notes for podcasts in iCloud Notes because I just delete them after because we recorded the podcast. I don't need the outline anymore. It's not.
Ooh, I would keep it because what if I make a video on it later?
Oh, well, I'm not going to make a video on it later. So
you delete your research?
Yeah.
Like you do research on. Oh my gosh, I can never do that.
I have I really hate keeping things.
Okay.
It's almost, and maybe that's me. I have OCD, but for me, I really like that some things go away before I feel encumbered by having to manage infinite things because I'll have a lot more thoughts and things I do over the next, 60 years or so.
Yeah.
So I've got a default morning routine. This is just the default, but I want to be able to quickly open it up, look at it in the morning, and be like, oh, that's interesting. So while I'm not editing it frequently, I want to be able to see it at a moment's notice and then ignore it. These are the things I have pinned to the top. They're just it's like the equivalent of putting sticky notes on a wall that floats in front of me. That way I always have access to that data. And then a lot of this, though, is... Okay, so I have tomorrow till Thursday morning, quarter a cup each time. That's just me remembering to watch Arwen and how much to feed her.
Oh, yeah.
I don't need that. I'm deleting it right now. It's gone.
Because you just know now.
It was tomorrow till Thursday. It's just a quick note. I just needed somewhere to write something immediately.
Yeah.
Where do I write it? Well, Evernote's a little cumbersome when you want to write something quick. Evernote takes a little longer.
So I wonder if you actually would like this agenda app, because this literally puts things on your agenda and you can date them, and then they kind of just will fade into the past when you're done with them. I don't know. It doesn't make sense for me because I do a lot of entering data, and then because agenda is just a project and it's one long list of everything, and the notes they're not previews like they are in Evernote. They're just one note, and then you scroll all the way past it. It's like having a blog where there's no truncation in the blog view. It's just the whole thing, and then the next thing. But maybe that makes sense for you.
Maybe for some of these, because a lot of these I don't even remember gate code. Honestly, it took me a few seconds to remember what that even was for.
Yeah.
I don't.
Is that for the apartment?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. But at first I was just gate code. I don't remember writing that down. And here's a list of us trying to go through the Marvel movies.
Oh, we were trying to do that, weren't we? Yeah.
I don't need that in my legit reminders thing because it's not an important reminder. That's not I'm just keeping track of something temporarily. Yeah,
that's true. Okay, so you kind of want separation between active/ephemeral things and archive things.
Yeah.
I'm sort of thinking of how in The Name of the Wind there's the stacks and then the other area in the library. I forget the second room.
Yeah, I don't remember.
The stacks you have to get special permission to go in there, and it's everything. And then there's the one other room where most of the books that are currently being used, those are kept there, and students usually just go there.
Well, it's so the stuff that's in the archive, the stuff that's in the stacks, so to speak, I want that stuff formatted a certain way.
Yeah.
If it's going to be something, so imagine that I had decided that gate code goes into my archive, my Evernote. It's not useful if I go into the filing cabinet room and then I'm just well, I don't have any idea what the hell that is. Just throw it out. Stuff that gets stored long term needs to be a little more explicit in what it's about. Mm-hmm. It needs to be formatted in a way useful to future to me. And I don't always want to go to the effort of making something useful to future me when I only needed it this week.
Yeah. That makes sense. I wonder if you could develop. I wonder if it would be too cumbersome from a user experience standpoint to develop two different kinds of data entry. So I know
I don't know.
Apps like Zoho Notes have tried to do different types of notes. This is a checklist note, and this is a text note, and this is an audio note, and this is a picture note. And I don't like the idea of choosing the type of data you want.
Yeah, the more steps there is.
I want to say new note, and then this note should be flexible enough to take in the data that I want, which is exactly what Evernote does.
Yeah, well, this is why I use paper a lot of times for those ephemeral ideas. Yeah.
That makes sense.
I have little pocket notebooks and
I do it with
things
sticky notes
like
on my
that.
desktop, like the Windows Sticky Notes app.
Yeah, and like
works
the
well.
fact that I would ever think that physical paper is useful when I have Evernote in my pocket all the time, I think that goes to show that there is a very different need
Yeah.
for these type of notes. Or else,
Yeah.
like, feasibly, I can use Evernote at all times at any time I want. But sometimes that doesn't serve my purpose. It's a very different type of note-taking in my mind.
Yeah. So, and this is sort of like the crux of what I've been struggling with, because there's a big part of my mind that wants to say, I should have a single note-taking application that can handle Comcast data issue ticket numbers in one area and serious content creation and research and writing in another area. And then there's another part of my brain that's like, well, you could just separate those, like have a note-taking app for all your personal crap and then have an app for serious writing. But where I get hung up there and where I just feel like I can't deal with that is I can't turn my brain off from serious writing out like all the time. Like I'll be in the shower and I'll be like, oh my God, that's a great quote for this article that I'm working on. I want to be able to go into my data system. And I guess if there was like a serious writing app that I was satisfied with on all platforms, I could keep that separate from Evernote, but there just isn't
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, because
So
they all
maybe
have, like, the
the,
one thing.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, for some of them, the one thing is just not available on Windows. Like,
yeah, and that's still
honestly,
an important thing for you because you need access to it all the time if
Yeah.
it's going to take your notes.
For a while, about 5 months ago, I switched to Bear, which is a Mac and iOS note-taking app. And it's very interesting. It's got that hybrid markdown editor that shows you your formatting as you type. It's got hashtags that let you link between notes, which is pretty cool. And it has the ability to create nested folders. Theirs is interesting because you use tags to make nested folders, and you literally type the tags in the note. There's not a tag area. You type the tags, which I find a little cumbersome because you have to like type slashes and like type your hierarchy.
Do you have to escape stuff?
I don't think so. I can just open
Oh,
Bear.
slash is like slash parent level note or
Yes.
tag
So
slash
here I have like
child
personal and housing, and the way that I created personal/housing is I literally typed #personal/housing.
Oh,
And
okay.
it created a housing folder for me.
That makes sense.
And if I were to add another tag to this note, it would also be in that area.
Oh, you know what? This is actually so part of the reason I want ephemeral stuff separated is because I don't want to sort it because I feel like I have to have the perfect organization system for all data that's going to be kept. And like Evernote, I became a mountain of terrible tags and notebooks that barely kept updated because I was like, well, this one doesn't fit anything, I guess.
So that's why
I don't know
have
what's going on there.
354 notes in inbox, which are just not sorted, and there could be literally anything. And like I guess I could just I could use search for that. And like that's not a bad, like that's not horrible. Like search is fine. I use search for Gmail. I don't label everything anymore in Gmail.
Yeah.
But for serious content creation, I think like you need to be able to have nested folders. Or if you're writing a book, I want to have like book, then chapter folders, and then like in a chapter, I might want a folder for world building notes or something like that. Like I want data flexibility, and I don't see why Evernote can't give us the ability to create nested notebooks. Like so many other apps do.
Oh, now in the meantime, for anybody listening who happens to want to write books, I actually love Scrivener.
Scrivener is cool.
It is a
Scrivener's
separate
just
app, though. So, this stuff doesn't do any of that right now. But if you were writing something right now and you think that sounds cool and you need it immediately.
Oh, yeah. Write your book in Scrivener.
Scrivener's dope.
I wrote my book. Well, I wrote my book mostly in Byword, but then I ported it over and finished it in Scrivener.
Scrivener's really cool, but it's nothing like these. So it's not like you could do that at the same time.
App.
No.
Especially like, I don't think getting data
That's
into
just
it quickly
if you're
is
writing
easy.
a book and that's all you need right this second.
Mm-hmm. And so I'll talk about Ulysses now because like I feel like Ulysses is the app where everyone's like, if you're a serious writer on Mac and iOS, use Ulysses. But if you're super serious, use Scrivener. That's kind of like the consensus because Scrivener is like everything and the kitchen sink. There's like ridiculous formatting tools and everything like that. I don't think you can write a markdown in Scrivener. Ulysses is, I would say, very similar to Bear, where you can do your multiple folders, with nesting. You can do your hybrid markdown, which is really nice. What I love about Ulysses, though, is you don't use tags to categorize things. You just create your folder structure the way you want. And then if I go into, say I have like 3 levels of folders here. So I've got very stupid test folder names. Math notes with evil math, and then very evil math is my third level notebook here. So I can see all the notes that I've done in here. If I go to evil math, which contains very evil math, I can see everything within evil math, but also the ones in the subfolder as well. I like that. I like being able to do that.
Okay, so yeah, that is kind of a similar thing to what.
Yes.
It's similar to one of the things that you can do.
Now, what I would like to be able to do
Scrivener.
here, if I could, I would like to be able to hide this, like collapse it, if I could, which I'm going to write that down there. Collapse subfolder lists, because that would be cool. But what I love in Ulysses is that for every single folder, you can define a sort order. That's great because I could have a notes folder, which I would just do by date modified or date created. But then if I'm writing a book, then I might sort that manually, and I can move these around exactly how I want to move them, so I can define chapter order or sub-chapter order or whatever I want. Another thing that Ulysses does, which I like a lot, is it also has the outline view, which I only have one header here, so there's only one there. But I love that outline view. I do wish it wasn't like a menu I had to click. I wish I could just have it in the sidebar, which you can do with Slite and you can do with Typora and you can do with Dropbox Paper. But at least it has it.
It's funny how like everything is divided so
everything just
specifically among all the different note-taking apps.
Right. So I think
it's a big area.
Might be the one that I would go to, but it doesn't have a Windows app or a web app. So again, same problem with Bear. When I was using Bear, I was using Bear for like 2 months, and I would just be like, well, you know what? I don't do content creation on the desktop computer anymore. Just not what I do. And I think this was around the time that we got the Office. So I was like, well, I do work at the office. I go to the office. I plug my MacBook into the dock, which gives me the other monitor, so it's fine. But that did not fly because I would find myself editing video on this desktop, or sometimes I'm playing a game on the desktop and I'm like, ooh, I just got an idea.
Yeah, and you want to put it in.
And my data system is completely inaccessible from this computer. I guess I have to type it on my phone. Like, I don't want friction keeping me from getting ideas into my system. That's like the whole productivity principle I live by. Get ideas into my system, And I guess I could like simplify and be like, well, my system is a paper notebook, but I don't know. The way I like to work, I like to be able to type. That's how I think. I type so much faster than I write. So that works for me. I guess Ulysses, another thing I don't like is when you paste a link, you have to hit enter 3 times to get to the next line. Because you'll paste a link and then you'll hit enter and it'll pop up this window and be like, do you want to like label this link? And you have to enter to get out of that, and then you got to hit enter one more time. So because I do a lot of research for videos, I will have research documents. Like I'll show you the one in Evernote that I got going right now for the investing video that I want to do. Where is it? This is my those are all the links I had open for investing. There's like for people who are listening to this, probably 30 URLs that like I want access to in case I need them again. And I would have to hit enter 90 times in Ulysses, whereas in Evernote or basically every other app, you just paste it, it auto-detects the link, it links it, doesn't ask you to label it because you don't need to label it unless you want to. I don't know. I feel like for an app to let you label your links, it should just like wait for you to type the text that you want the hyperlink to be, highlight it, and paste the link in. And if I'm pasting a link on its own, then I just want the link there.
Yeah, or like in Markdown editors, you can just put the label in brackets and then the URL in parentheses after.
You can write that. Yeah.
But like you don't want to be. I just wanted it to be the URL, and now you're making it hard for me to move on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I guess like I have requirements for serious writing, but then I have requirements for research, and I would like those two things to be in the same app.
Yeah, which makes sense because what if you need to see the research while you're writing, and now you've got 2 apps open at the same time, and you're trying to switch between them on your phone or something on the go, and that's just...
So the problem with Ulysses, no Windows. The problem with Bear, no Windows. The problem with iCloud Notes, no Windows. iCloud Notes is pretty awesome, actually. Like, it lets you do subfolders. You can drag notes between folders very easily.
Yep.
You've got inline image support. You've got checkboxes. No Markdown, but I don't see Markdown as a necessity. I see it as a hybrid Markdown editor, especially like the one that Dropbox Paper made, where you can type in Markdown, but you can also do rich text stuff. Like it gives you a toolbar. So if you want to just highlight a word and then hit the B for bolding, you can do that. If you want to just hit Control B or Command B to bold, you can do that. but if you want to do Markdown, you can do that too. I feel like that's like the ultimate implementation of a writing tool. Mark Text is an open source Markdown editor that also does that. And then what Mark Text does, along with Notion, which I want to talk about next, is if you do like a slash, it'll actually open up like this little drop-down menu right where your cursor is, where you can actually just like scroll through a list of elements and then insert them that way, which is pretty cool, especially when you get to powerful note-taking apps that let you embed videos or tables, things like that. So the last ones on the list here are Notion and Slite. And I see these as kind of similar, though they do have some marked differences. So Notion we've been using for 6 or 7 months. It's an app that we use daily. Notion impresses me more than any other app for like personal data management I've ever used. I mean, you use Notion a lot because I kind of make you.
That's true.
Because we use it a lot for College Info Geek stuff. Notion, I feel like their problem is that they're trying to be everything, but like impressively, they've almost done it.
Yeah,
Like
it's got a lot of features.
A very powerful spreadsheet / database tool that works like Airtable. They have a hybrid Markdown editor. They have the slash thing where you can bring up that contextual menu and insert things. You can embed media, videos, pictures, and you can embed PDFs inline, and I think you can even view your inline PDFs in the mobile app, which even Evernote can't do. Like Notion is really powerful, and it's also super flexible. You get this sidebar where you can just create as many nested folders as you want. But the problem is there's, at least for a note-taking thing, there's no like default middle view where you click into a folder and then see all your notes. Like you're just clicking into a page, and it's so flexible. Like you could build your own thing where you could like make a database, and I've tried to do that. I tried to have like a weekly meetings folder here, and then I created a database, and I would just like make notes out of the database, which worked okay. Like this is what we did for a while, but it just, I don't think it's as elegant as the more rigid structure that Evernote or Bear or anything gives you, where it's like folder view, you click into a folder, you get a list of your notes, and then you click the note that you want, and you see the thing in the editor. But my main complaint with Notion is they use this like block structure to make their text and all data in the app super modular. Like I can move literally anything around, but, and you've probably run into this, you can't select text precisely.
Yeah, it's difficult to, and you have to like select the whole block.
Yeah, so like a paragraph is a block, right? And like any serious writers, like sometimes they're going to want to like, oh, I don't like these 5 sentences, which comprise possibly 3 paragraphs. So I'm going to cut them out. You can't do that in Notion, because the moment your selection goes outside the block that you have started in, you're now selecting blocks.
Yeah, so if you're cutting like the end of one paragraph and the beginning of another one, you'd be selecting the whole paragraphs.
Yep, it just doesn't work. So any kind of serious writing can't really be done in Notion. So my weird workaround solution for the past 5 months has been writing my scripts in Evernote or Byword or whatever Markdown app I want if I get serious about it, and then I paste them into Notion. And I only paste them in the Notion because we use Notion for video project management. Notion's crazy powerful. Like they have that database thing where the first cell in any row is itself a page, and you can go as many layers deep as you want with that. And then they also have a templating option where you can make anything a template that can be just, you can spawn iterations of it. That's crazy powerful. So we have a table of all the videos we're working on with tags for sponsors and tags for the date that's going to go live and things like that, and who's going to edit it. And then I can spawn an iteration of my video project template where if you go in there's like a table for B-roll ideas. There's a script area. There's a new version of our publishing checklist. Like it's so powerful. It's crazy. It's so powerful. I don't want to abandon it, but I can't write my scripts in it.
Yeah.
So I feel like I got to paste them somewhere else. So like we're like almost addicted to Notion for video project management, but it's not the place where I can write my scripts. Maybe I got to be okay with that. But to be okay with that, I would need another note-taking app where I'm happy writing, and I'm not happy yet.
Yeah.
Slite is interesting because I feel like Slite is the one that's like closest to exactly what I want. I don't think I have Slite installed on this computer, but Slite's like they're building primarily a team-based note-taking app, but I feel like inadvertently they're working on making something that works perfectly for individuals. They just like everything about them is like all their marketing is not built for individuals because it's like put in your company email address to start a company Slite account. It's very like Slack but for note taking.
That's even got the SLA.
I think like they're like, what if you could like make a personal wiki or note taking in Slack? It even looks like Slack. Like look at it. It looks like Slack.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it has that nice like 3-pane view. It's got a markdown editor that I would say is equal to Typora's if it weren't buggy. So right now, sometimes when I do like asterisks around a word to bold it, it won't actually render the word bold. It just like leaves the asterisks like 1 out of every 10 times. So usually whatever engine is doing this it like works, but sometimes it just like forgets to do it, which is annoying. But like they've got a lot of great stuff in here. They've got an outline view that you can keep, and when you open the outline view, it just gets rid of all your note organization stuff to kind of give you like a distraction-free environment. So right now you can't like look at it all at the same time, but that's fine. They have, I think, the best collaborative and commenting system because they create threads. So it's not like, I don't know, Notion's is a little more annoying because like your comments are like everywhere and you got to click into them. Whereas if you highlight and comment paragraphs in Slite, it just creates like a list of threads that you can resolve, have conversations on. So for collaborative writing, it's awesome. You can link between notes. You can bookmark stuff. Everything's there. Like they're doing great, all right? And so this is sort of annoying to me, but on the left here you have channels, which are like they're notebooks. And within channels, you can go here and you can make collections, and you can make as many nested collections as you want. So it does kind of have that folder structure, but I kind of wish the folder structure was just over here in channels. Like, for people listening to this, it would be like going into an Evernote notebook, and then in that middle view, you can create nested folders. But then you can't do sorting within a nested folder. The only way you can do sorting is by looking at recent for the entire top level notebook. So like it's almost there, but not quite. But the biggest problem with me right now, or for me with Slite, is the performance and bugs. It can be a little buggy. Their mobile app just came out and it can be very buggy, and then sometimes it's slow. Like if I want to open another like an app in a new tab, sometimes it does not load very quickly. And natively built desktop note-taking applications will just pop a new note open. That's what Evernote does. If I want another note open in a new window, Evernote's just like, here you go, boom. So nothing is there yet, but so many apps are close.
And I feel like this is the problem with it's such a complicated thing.
Yeah.
All of them are trying to do so many things, and when you try to do so many things, it gets hard. But
Right.
What if you need these features? You can't just cast them all out like I normally do.
Yep.
Then what? You want something that's inherently complicated, and because of that, everything's going to be like almost there, but at a sacrifice of something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been in the Reddit for the Standard Notes app, and I've gone into their Slack too, and I have to like give props to the developer. It's one dude, and every time people are just like, I can't believe you don't have image support yet. I can't believe this isn't there yet. And he's just like, look, I'm taking my time. I'm like making this at my own pace. I'm not going to throw bloat in there because bloat is how you get Evernote and how you get like 1,000 bazillion screaming customers who all want everything.
Yeah.
Like, look, I started with a plain text app with encryption, and then I slowly added extensions over time. That's what I'm going to do. And, I commend that. Unfortunately, it just has a couple of things that don't work for me right now.
Yeah.
You literally can't open another note in a new window, and that's just like, it doesn't work for me as a researcher.
And I feel like that's why I ended up using paper so often now, or just iCloud Notes, because I got so frustrated and confused with all the organizational things or the things that weren't working quite right, and then I was like, I just don't want to need information anymore. Everything is ephemeral. Throw it away. And I sacrifice a lot of potential things that I could be doing that would be more organized because of it.
Mm-hmm.
But everything was just ever so slightly too confusing to organize correctly, or it wouldn't display right. And I was just like, I don't care about any of them now.
Yeah.
You will be what I want, or you will be paper, and I will throw you away when I am done.
Yeah, exactly. So all my complaining here has just like started making me think like, what if I could make the app that works for me? And I think like trying to redo Evernote is like that way lies madness kind of thing. Because like, oh yeah, we're going to do OCR, we're going to do cameras and audio notes and everything. We're just going to beat them. We're going to make Evernote plus nested folders. That's a huge software product that's been around for 10 years.
Yeah.
But the thing that made this seem feasible in my mind is there's an open source Markdown editor called MarkText. And I believe it's open source, so I could fork it. Now, I'm not a developer, so I probably shouldn't fork this. But and I've seen people discussing this in the issues threads for MarkText and on GitHub. They're like, I just wish like you could take MarkText and like graft it onto a note-taking system like Evernote's or Ulysses or something like that. And it seems like the people there like have the want. Maybe there are people there with the ability. There just isn't like the funding. And what I have is some ability to fund something, and I'm good at Figma.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty good at UI. I'm not good at coding. So like I wonder like how feasible would it be for us to almost like I think like the MVP in my head is something similar to Typora, maybe using an open source Markdown editor like MarkText as the base, but it's got iOS and Android apps in addition to its standard Windows, Mac, and maybe Linux, or maybe web interface as well. You could do this in Electron, which means you basically build a web app and then it's in a container. There are performance issues, but I mean, Notion's built on Electron, and it performs decently well for me. There's going to be purists out there who are like, you got to write it natively, so it's as good as possible on every single system. And sure, maybe you can do a rewrite when it's not MVP time, but I don't know. Like, I feel like this could be feasible. All I want is like that awesome Markdown editor with the ability to do nested folders, and then it would be cool to like have some features from Ulysses or Slite with like the outline view, the versioning history, which you could maybe build on Git. I'm not sure. Smart filters and tags, just things like that, and then build from there. But I feel like that there's just nothing that's nailed that like beautiful combination of that editor with that subfolder hierarchy organization and made it available on those 5 core platforms.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the 5 are like web, Windows, Mac, Android, iOS. And then the Linux people are going to be like, but what about Linux? Okay, maybe Linux later, but like not a whole lot of people use Linux. And if you put it in the web, like you can still access it.
Yeah.
It's like the one thing that makes me like almost want to go back to Bear because they're working on a web app. Just not there yet. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe 6 months from now, like everyone on this list will have solved all their problems and I won't need to do this.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm gonna keep it in my mind. And I guess like because we're making this a podcast, like if you have ideas, if you have thoughts, I'm trying to think of like the best place where I won't get overwhelmed by people who are interested in this. The Discord. Would that be a good place for people to go? And like, if they're interested, they go in here and chat and like, because I don't want to get a bazillion emails about this because a bazillion emails means it's a one-to-many relationship where nobody else can collaborate. They're all just emailing me. And then like, I've a zillion other things to do. Like say I came up with an idea that like needed developers and needed to fund it. I got to keep making videos and podcasts.
Yeah.
To fund it. Like there's a surplus of money from the videos and podcasts, but if I stop that, like that ends. So if this was going to be a thing, maybe there needs to be like a more collaborative group of people who can also discuss it. But then the problem is like the more people you add to the pool of voices, the more features get requested and the more bloat there is. So I don't know.
Yes, it's a very tricky situation.
It is a tricky situation because there's just the part of me that's just like, no, I want it the way I want it, and I'm going to hire one developer, and they're going to make it the way I want it. That's it. But there's also probably stuff that I'm overlooking. I don't know. So let's do the Discord. I think that's a decent place to start. We already have collegeinfogeek.com/Discord. You can go. It's an open invitation. Doesn't cost anything. You can get in the Discord. I'll just make a channel for note-taking I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. Probably just Note app. Go in there and like, if you listen to this podcast episode, you'll know what that channel is for. Otherwise, you won't know what it's for. If you have ideas, if you're a developer, if you're like passionate and you hate the fact that all these note-taking apps don't work just like I do, then go in there and let's like have a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I would like to see something that fits my needs. And I feel like so many things are close. There's not there yet. Like you take the version history syncing and device availability of standard notes and you throw on Typora's editor and it would be almost perfect. You know, and any combination of many of these apps, it's like, if I take this and mash them together, it'd be perfect. But they're not mashed together.
Nope.
So we may have to do some mashing ourselves. So yeah, I guess the other thing is tell us in the comments for, I guess, the YouTube version, or maybe on Twitter or probably Twitter. I haven't been checking Instagram DMs very much lately. I actually put Instagram at like the back of a folder on my phone, so I go to it less.
Yeah.
And it means I've been posting less frequently, but I've also been there less frequently, which is good for my time. So Twitter is probably the best place because like it's easier to get a hold of me, I think. The problem with Instagram is it's, again, the friction issue. Instagram's only on my phone. And I hate typing on my phone.
I hate that I can only do it on my phone.
So I'm not going to do it.
Sometimes just don't.
And I think Facebook pages try to like integrate a thing where your Instagram DM inbox could go into your Facebook page, your Facebook Messenger thing, but then like the conversations were all messy and didn't work. I don't know. So yeah, Twitter. I'm Tom Frankly, and you are Yo Bartholomew, which is long for Martin.
Yep.
What I want to know in the public forum is, what do you think about these kind of fly on the wall episodes? Because obviously this was not really an episode for anybody. It was more for us. Yeah,
maybe you don't care about note-taking apps specifically, but
yeah,
I mean,
but who? I mean,
we could talk about anything.
Who listening to this podcast doesn't care about note-taking apps? Like, who wouldn't care about that, right?
I don't know. But like, we could just an episode where it's less attempting to present definitive answers to things, and it's more just like a discussion.
Well, you were telling me about like when you went to PodCon, didn't they say like every successful podcast, like every successful podcast episode has somebody?
Yeah, somebody was talking about how like one of the hosts is geeking out about the thing, and it's a lot of it's just sort of like it is just a conversation, or it's more or entertainment. It's not always presentation all the time, which is And I like the episodes, like the Burnout episode, where it felt like I was trying to discover something while we were recording it. I was also trying to reach conclusions the whole time. You know?
Yeah, it's funny when people ask me, like, what are your favorite episodes of the podcast? Like, they're not the ones that have done the best. They're like, I don't know, the house buying episode. I know that's not the one that's going to resonate most with our audience, but like I was interested in buying a house. So I went and geeked out, did like a ton of research.
Yeah. I guess so these kind of episodes are just like, do you occasionally want to just kind of pick up a piece of our brain for no reason and say, what's in there? Oh, that's interesting. But you didn't seek to get anything out of it necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to know what people think about this. I like this format because sometimes I just want to get thoughts out, and like those thoughts are interesting to other people.
Yeah. There are so many things that we talk about, or so many thoughts that just, they're interesting. They could be useful to the right person. But it's like we didn't work out the perfect angle to make it. Here's my bullet pointed 7 ways to wear your socks cooler.
Yeah.
Make them cool socks, I guess.
You go to Express, buy fancy patterned socks.
Yeah, I got some socks with some clouds on them. Those are some pretty dope. But like that's not, that's clearly just a random conversational piece, and little thoughts would never make it anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. But this is interesting. And I mean, I feel like it gives us even further impetus to change the name of the podcast. Like,
yeah, I had an idea for a name earlier, and then I looked it up, and it's already a podcast.
I did too. It was like first time I was like, let's call it the 1% Better Show.
Nope,
it's already a show.
Nope.
So, now it's one thing I will not say on the air is podcast names.
Yeah,
because that would be so easy to go like just nab.
Too many MCs, not enough mics.
Exactly.
I want all the
mics. We have like
Fugees,
14 mics in this room. There's a lot of mics in this room. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Oh.
There's at least 10 because there's mics on the phones, 11 in your phone, 12, 13 on the laptops.
Oh, God. The government's
they're 14.
listening, aren't they?
Yeah, of course.
Hi, government.
I mean, hey, why don't we make all of our correspondence a podcast? Because then everyone gets to hear what the government here gets to hear, right?
Yeah, that's true. We'll just leave it recording all day long, and then we'll just cut out chunks and then say that's an episode.
I remember watching, there was a guy back in the 90s, actually, who did experiment where he streamed just every room of his house 24/7 to the internet publicly. He was a weird artist type.
Okay.
And then he took that and he did an experiment where he bought out this building and set up cameras everywhere and invited people to come live there. And I think they lived there for free, but
is this the beginning
every
of Big
single
Brother?
thing had to be filmed, even the beds. It was a weird. I can't remember the name of the dude. Possibly people can put that in the comments, but it was sort of like the precursor to live streaming, or social media even, because people tweet their lives now. That was sort of the experiment that sort of got that started. But it was also weird, and people got really, really angry, and yeah, turns out when you go volunteer to live in a place where you're literally always filmed, some people tend to crack under that.
I can imagine.
Pressure. But yeah, I'm interested in this. It's a potential idea. I would love to see a note-taking implementation situation. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah.
Solution. That's the word.
And at the very least, this is a good example of how do you think through stuff when you're. This is how deeply you get stuck in things and how much you're thinking about the details of things, and that's.
Ooh, you know what I also want to see? Comments from people who are just Tom, you're stupid because you could have just done this. Because there's probably some oversight.
Yeah.
I want to know where my blind spots are. What could I be doing? But I tried to mold Evernote to my will, and I just can't seem to do it satisfactorily. So, luckily, I've been spending hours over the past few days just writing out every pro and con for all these apps. So I basically got my dream feature list, so I could just sort of start paring it down and then start doing some wireframes, and it could be a thing. So yeah, collegeinfogeek.com/Discord. If you want to join the conversation about that, I think I'm gonna just throw up a channel called Note App. That might work. Otherwise, I think that'll do it for this episode. So if you've stuck with us so far, it feels weird to promote the standard things we promote at the end of the episode because it's a weird, just Skype conversation almost. Well, it's not Skype. We're literally sitting here.
Yeah.
It's in the studio.
What? That can happen in real life?
Yeah, real conversations could happen.
This is like an IRL Skype?
It is, yeah. I would say that it's likely that I already have a video. I'm going to have a video about these apps out by the time this episode comes out because this is 3 weeks in the future. So if that exists, which I think it should, that'll be in the show notes. So if you want to learn more about some of these note-taking apps I talked about in a way where I'm just not rambling about them in an audio format, then check that out. We'll have links to all of them in the show notes and some other things. So cigpodcast.com/250. We made it. 250,000.
There it is.
I don't think people say the word 250,000, but 250 episodes seems pretty significant to me. I don't know why. I think when I hit 250,000 subs on YouTube, it felt really significant. There's just some way the human brain sees divisions between different base 10 number combinations. 250 felt more significant than 300. Just because it's it's a 250,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, check out those show notes. Otherwise, you can go to collegeinfogeek.com/resources to find our favorite apps, books, tool recommendations. Who knows? Maybe someday a note-taking app developed by half me, half developers in the Discord. Who knows? Maybe that could be there someday. I don't know. I think we could probably whip up an MVP at some point and then realize just how difficult of an engineering challenge it probably is.
Yep, but even discovering that is a very interesting challenge.
It is an interesting challenge. I'm interested in it, and I think that's the I don't know, the North Star. It's fascinating, so go for it.
Well, it's like when I was doing the Unity things,
Yeah.
Who knows if those go anywhere? And if you limit yourself based on trying to predict whether an idea will go somewhere, you're going to shut down all of your ideas before they start.
True. Yep.
Give yourself a chance to actually work at it and fail. Don't just assume you're going to fail and never try, because sometimes you don't fail.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. Cool. So I mentioned resources. If you want to support the show, should probably tell people how to support the show. I know they're chomping at the bit,
Oh yeah.
especially in an episode like this where we're like very specifically gave them what they wanted.
Oh yeah.
Didn't just like have a conversation we wanted to have. Yeah, if you like this show, Apple Podcasts or iTunes on your computer has a whole marketplace of podcasts, and every podcast has ratings and reviews. So if you want to go over there, give us a 5-star rating or 4-star or however many stars you think this podcast is worth. Give us a review that gives us feedback on what we're doing. It's highly appreciated, but it also, I think at least, helps bump the show up the charts, up like the top podcast rankings. And then when people go to education or higher education to look for a podcast, then they might see ours, and that will grow the listener base. And yeah.
Yeah. If this is your first episode for some reason and you hate this format, don't review it based on that. Listen to the last few.
That's probably, yeah, it's an oversight on my part. We should have like a recommended starting playlist.
I think we should, because there are some that are definitely like
yeah, we need like a where
more
to
my
start.
favorites than the rest. And not just for personal reasons. There's like, I feel like that was a good conversation. This one worked well.
You know what? I feel like I actually
It's hard to podcasts aren't well curated, so we should actually get that
Yeah.
out there.
I feel like I designed that in Figma on the
Yeah, I never
page,
made
and
it,
we
if
never
that's
actually
true.
implemented it. So what we should do
MVP
is
demanded
just-
sacrifices.
but we can just, I mean, didn't you make it all modular so we could literally put like the
That's
grid-
true. Because I took so long to make that a feature, I made it a good feature, which
Yeah.
means we could implement that within the next 20 minutes if we had a
literally
list in
could.
mind.
Yeah, we could literally just say like start here, top 9
Oh.
episodes.
Haha.
Boom.
Take that, agile development. This
Grid.
paid off.
All right, so let me make a list of things I need to do before I get up and stop doing this.
Way too picky for agile development, honestly,
Discord
with
channel.
things that I care about like this.
I need that. I'm just going to call it Note app. Secret Note app. And then top 9 podcasts. That would be useful to have.
DuckTales. Woo.
Boom. Cool. Well, I think that's it. So thanks for hanging out with us. Again, this is not a normal kind of episode, so let me know in the YouTube comments or on Twitter what you guys thought of this. Do you want more sort of fly-on-the-wall stuff? Or
Do you
do
hate our
want us
brains?
Just
Maybe.
I don't know. I do want feedback, but to be honest, like I think we need to do more of this kind of stuff because
So I think we're
sometimes-
gonna have to move in a slightly different direction eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe if you're just like, I don't know, give us any feedback. I like feedback. It'll help us
Yeah.
grow. We got to grow. We're at 250 episodes now. We
Yeah.
can't do the same thing for another 250. You know?
I think it would be sad if it was like episode 500, we're like top 10 test taking tips. Like,
Yeah,
you
I
already
don't.
did it.
I don't. We're getting
gotta-
old. We're getting old, Tom. we
have
need to
progress.
change.
Yeah, if we literally just do the same topics because they'll do well, that's sad.
Yeah.
So there.
Well, imagine
has
if
to
I
be
thought
some evolution.
18-year-old me was the best me and I should be like him forever. I don't want to be anything like 18-year-old me right now. We need to grow. Tell
Yeah.
us how to get old better.
Yeah, tell us how to get old better. And with that, what's an old-timey way to sign off?
I'm not good at this
Thomas
yet.
Frank for KCCTVI News, Channel 8.
I need to get better at old-timey sign-offs. I'm not an expert.
All right, we'll see you in next week's episode. Stay cute.